Welcome back, everyone, once again to a new installment of Screenplay Rewind. I'm Jeff.
I'm Ron.
So this week, Ron, are you playing Ron in the podcast? Are you playing yourself? Or are you actually yourself?
I am. I'm playing a Ron superfan.
You're playing a Ron superfan.
Yeah.
Are you played by Pedro Pascal?
Yes, I
Sick.
am Pedro Pascal. I have been this whole time.
See, always be yourself unless you can be Pedro Pascal.
Exactly.
And then always be Pedro Pascal. I love that, like, Pedro Pascal just went from that guy everyone loved in Game of Thrones to now just, like, fucking everywhere all over the place.
It makes me so happy.
Yeah. He's one of those dudes where it's just, like, I wanted him to take off so bad because he's just always so fucking good at everything he's in. And then, like, Last of Us popped off and Mandalorian, even though he's, like, barely in the Mandalorian, really, you know, like it's still like just did a lot to help out his career. It always makes me happy. Man,
this may be my favorite Pedro Pascal performance.
He's so fucking good in this movie.
And there's two major performances I have not seen, but this may be my favorite performance of his.
Yeah, he's wonderful. We'll talk about it. Yeah. So we typically have a Q&A section to start us off. I didn't have anything on my side.
I got nothing.
Yeah, we didn't have much. We did have a comment from Bobby that we can throw on the podcast, though. We had been talking about The Last Boy Scout in our Three Musketeers review. I had mentioned I liked it. You said you liked it, and we were kind of under the impression that like not many other people did. But we have Bobby officially on board, who said Last Boy Scout 3 thumbs up.
Yeah,
3. If you get three thumbs up from Bobby, that like ratchets up your Rotten Tomatoes score by like 10%.
Or does he work on a 1 to 5 thumbs up scale? Is he saying it's just kind of mediocre? Or
that's a good question. I think
is he saying Last Boy Scout fuck yeah?
I think he's saying Last Boy Scout fuck yeah with 3 endorsements, but we can have Bobby then comment in on this episode. And then to verify.
Leave a comment.
And then
below.
by the time that we read the comment, we will forget what he's confirming.
I know.
The cycle.
It always takes me a minute.
The unbearable
so
weight of short-term memory loss.
Right?
It is terrible. Yeah. Yeah. Let's just jump into it. So we have spoilers for The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. And this is actually a movie that I would say if you are interested in, look up nothing about it. Because all I knew about this movie was that Nic Cage played himself. That was literally
the only thing anyone knew about this movie.
And I never watched any of the trailers. I never saw any of the posters. That was literally all I knew, and that was enough to hook me just because it's so fucking weird. And I had no idea what the plot of this movie was. And when they like fucking opened it up with like a kidnapping, I was like, did I play the wrong movie on YouTube? Did you think the same thing? Because I was not expecting that.
When it opened with Con Air, I was like, okay, not what I expected. But got it. Then as it like zooms out of a TV and then a fucking kidnapping happens, I was like, is he gonna have to reprise his role from Con Air and go save this chick? Like, what is happening?
Put the hostage down.
Right?
You know what's also funny is it booted up with Con Air in like that really shitty late 90s like 480p, and I thought YouTube like screwed me over on the quality of my download.
Screwed me over on the quality of my Nicolas fucking Cage.
Because if you typically I rent stuff on Apple, right? But this was like for whatever fucking reason like $2 more expensive to rent on Apple, so I was like, fuck that, I'll keep my $2. I will rent it on YouTube. And instead of saying like 4K, YouTube says like super ultra master, like high def or whatever the hell their verbiage is. And I was like, are you fucking me over with this? Because this shit looks 480p. And then it zooms out and it's, like a 4K movie. I was like, oh, thank God.
I went to go rent it on Apple. And instead, Apple was like, you can buy it from us, you can rent it from us, or you can just get 7 days of Stars for free and watch it there. And I was like, okay, Apple. And I just clicked 7 days of Stars.
I do those so many times that I feel like, how am I still getting these trials? Like, how are y'all making money?
You never,
like
you never signed up, so you're still technically a new customer.
Yeah, it's like I feel like eventually y'all are not gonna make any money if I have unlimited trials, you know. But yeah, got it watched.
And it's gonna work out because there's a few other movies I noticed were in the stars lineup that I wanted to see.
There you go. What else did you have your eye on?
Well, now that you put me on the spot, I completely blanked on one of them, but the other one is Alice Darling with Anna Kendrick. She like all of the film circuit buzz and all of the film festivals, stuff like that, and a lot of like Twitter accounts and stuff that I follow for movies will not stop raving about that movie.
Okay.
And her performance in it. So I've been curious, especially since it's the complete opposite of what her normal role is, which I know she's good at drama type stuff because I've watched her HBO show, which I am now blanking on that too. Why do you keep putting me on the spot, Jeff?
Hey, you put yourself on the spot with that one, my man.
Real quick. Love Life. I didn't even get there yet, and I found it. Love Life.
I had not heard of that movie, but I like Anna Kendrick, so I'd be down.
It is not going to be an uplifting story. It is about a woman trapped in an abusive relationship.
Oh, well, bring the
posters,
fucking room down, man.
The posters are literally her in water with the water about to come up over her face like she's drowning. So, yeah.
It'll be a good movie, though.
But I feel like
every single actor that has like good comedic timing is always good at drama, because like those actors always say like comedy is way harder than drama. So usually, if you're good at like comedic timing, like she is, you can usually translate that to being a really good dramatic actor.
Well, what's interesting is when I don't know if you remember, but when I was watching Love Life the first time, I was like, Jeff, she is an executive producer on this, and she is one of the 3 people at the round table at the end of every episode, like HBO loves to do. Yeah. I was like, it's not going to be long before she's writing or directing something. And after this movie broke and everyone was like blowing up about Anna Kendrick's performance in that, it broke that she's like writing, starring, and directing in another movie about something. And now everyone's talking about that one because it's in the like editing phase. So it was like shortly after I said that to you, this movie came out, and then it was announced on the writing the wave of this movie that she actually wrote, and I believe she wrote and starred. I know she stars and directs in. I believe she wrote it. But yeah. No, that's one of them, and I'm trying to fucking remember. I don't remember what all was in there now. There was something. I scrolled through it real fast, and I was like, oh, shit, I forgot about that movie. And then I was like, oh, I didn't even know this one was out. I thought Alice Darling was still, like, to rent, and I was waiting for it to hit streaming. But I ran across something else, and I don't remember what it was now.
I feel like Stars and Showtime are the master of grabbing that movie that people like, oh, I wanted to see that, and completely forget about, just like that.
Yeah,
that complete collection of like 7 out of 10 movies. You know,
there was a while that I preferred Stars over HBO because HBO pushed all of their own content so hard, and there's so much of it I don't care about. But Stars usually has a really good mix of new stuff and older stuff that I might want to watch again. Plus, if you have Stars, you get Encore, which has a bunch of stuff in it, some of it which I might want to watch again. And they're like $4 or $5 cheaper than HBO. So for a while, I was actually a bigger fan of Stars than I was HBO.
Another movie that has hit the streaming platforms, albeit it's currently at the like $20 to own rental thing, or not rental, but the digital purchase, before it drops down to be cheaper, is a movie I didn't even realize had come out yet that I was wanting to see, was Sisu. You remember the like World War II John Wick style thing?
Yeah,
like,
the one podcast I listened to that's talked about it, they were not impressed for all the wrong reasons.
They were not impressed?
So it was Jeff from Rage Select, and the guy is an insane fan of the John Wick movies. Yet he was talking about Sisu and like, okay, at this point, it's a superhero movie because there's things happening in this movie that a human cannot do. And I'm like, in John Wick, he's doing shit a human cannot do.
He does. So like the first John Wick is like pretty grounded. Like there's some kind of crazy stuff, but it's fairly grounded. The sequels, he is a superhero.
Yeah, dude, falling off the roof and hitting like 5 balconies on the way down. That is grounded to you and realistic?
He'd be in a fucking Keanu-sized body cast after that if he didn't fucking immediately die.
Yeah,
and he's just kind of like, he's fucked up, but he's like fine. So it's like, yeah, I don't get that. Sisu though has a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Holy shit!
There's something there. I want to watch it. And I agree, but I feel like that's just like Jeff being Jeff, because he will blatantly contradict himself in the most like outlandish way that I can't like figure out the equation to where he got to that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can never. I see the pins on the board. I never see any of the string connecting them. So yeah, I don't know.
Like, Jeff? Have you seen John Wick 3 and 4? Have you seen John Wick 3 and 4? Come on, man.
That's a movie we haven't talked about yet, even just off mic, is John Wick 4. I think I saw it before you, so I was waiting, and then I think you saw it. And we just never talked about it.
Oh, I think I saw it first.
Oh, did you see it?
Yeah, I saw it first, I think, and then I was refraining from talking about it, and I think we like very briefly texted about it, but not very much at all. But yeah, I love me some John Wick 4. It's my favorite of the sequels, like by far.
Let There Be Carnage, A Private War, and Don't Breathe 2 are all on Stars.
I forgot Don't Breathe. We needed to cover both of those on the show, so we have an excuse to finally watch that shit, because we love that first one, and I've been meaning to watch that fucking second one for so long.
Part of what's holding me back is Don't Breathe doesn't really need a sequel. That's part of what's holding me back.
But we gotta watch it.
We gotta watch it. Yeah, but
that's the thing. Yeah.
So. Yeah, that's what it was. It was those and Alice Darling.
I also forgot Let There Be Carnage existed.
Yeah, I'm not giving anyone money for that, including a streaming service. So having this for free for 7 days is a good chance to go watch that. What I know has to be garbage.
I feel like it'll be entertaining garbage.
Here's the thing. If you asked me who I would cast as Carnage, hands down, they knocked that out of the park, right?
I don't know. I feel like it should have been Nic Cage. So I would watch that.
No, you can't have a Carnage Ghost Rider, even though every other Marvel character has been a Carnage at some point. Yeah.
I'd still watch it. Let There Be Cage.
Let There Be Cage. Carn Cage.
Yeah, you want to circle back around, talk about the unbearable weight of segues?
I don't know, just the extreme amount of talent in this movie is so unbearable. I just don't know if I can bring myself to talk about it.
Yeah, I think we just gotta sign off for the day. So have a good night, everybody.
That's what that one guy on YouTube would prefer.
Indeed.
He's probably still listening too.
Take a drink. We mentioned the Lex Luthor of the podcast. Living in our heads rent-free random YouTube commenter who we couldn't even bother to read their username.
Oh, we read it. I just couldn't be bothered to remember it.
I don't even know if I read it. I think it just like fucking went to my brain and immediately left. Yeah. So let's run through the cast and crew before we jump into the plot, performances, and everything. And again, full spoilers for The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which I recommend people go out and watch. I think it's a good movie.
I'd be interested to hear how it holds up on a second viewing.
Yeah, that's actually interesting because I feel like a lot of the charm to this is its unpredictability and just how weird it is.
Yeah.
With like Nic Cage not only playing Nic Cage but also Nicky Cage.
Yeah,
that shit. I was like,
what is happening?
What is happening? Because that's even more like that's a whole new level of meta, and it's already meta. Okay, so the director is Tom Gormican, who also co-writes it with Kevin Etten.
Who?
I am not familiar with Tom Gormican.
I am not either.
He has directed one other film, which is, let me pull it up. It is That Awkward Moment, which I am also not familiar with. Has a decent cast though, to it for his first movie. It's several names you'll recognize. So I'm assuming he's gonna get more projects after this, because even though The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent didn't make a lot of money back, I feel like it's gonna be a little cult classic and really do well on streaming services.
Not only that, I mean, it has a hell of a cast, but outside of that, I can't imagine it had a huge budget, which means it's easier to make a profit. It's easier to call it a success, even when it doesn't make a lot of money. It was a
$30 million production budget, and it grossed 29, I believe. So basically drew even on that regard, but on streaming in the long run, I think it will make back its money like tenfold, because this is the type of movie, just like we're catching it now. I feel like this is something you watched on streaming. You know, like you're not gonna run out and see it like opening weekend, but it's a great hook. It'll get some good word of mouth because the good performances in it, and it's a Nic Cage movie, you know. Yeah, I think it's just fascinating, like how Nic Cage's inability to turn down movies ended up being like part of the plot line of a Nic Cage movie, where he's playing himself. Like, just the fact that exists like blows my mind. So
it gets even more meta than that. We'll get into it after the cast.
Yeah, we'll get into it. So as we mentioned, obviously Nic Cage plays Nic Cage and Nikki.
Oh God. We'll get into that too.
We'll get into Nikki. We have, who to me kind of like steals the movie, is Pedro Pascal.
Absolutely.
I think Pedro Pascal is so fucking lovable in this movie.
You know who he kind of reminds me of in this movie? And you can take this actor as any one of his movies, but in this movie, especially like just the way he's acting in general, and you know, he's supposed to be obsessed with Nic Cage, so his facial expressions when talking to Nic Cage, he reminds me a lot of Jeff Daniels.
I can see that,
especially from like Dumb and Dumber or something, like not necessarily like in how stupid he is or anything, but the way Jeff Daniels just kind of acts, the way he carries himself in that movie, his energy in that movie. He's got a lot of Jeff Daniels energy to him, I think, in this.
He also,
and I mean that in a good way. I love Jeff Daniels.
Oh, Jeff Daniels is fantastic. Similar to Jeff Daniels, he has this like comic sensibility to him, to where he can be very, very funny and very likable, and then on a dime bring out just like this like really, really like dark undertone of being a villainous character. Like, did you ever see Godless, the TV show with Jeff Daniels? Okay, so it's a Western, and the main villain is Jeff Daniels.
Oh my God, I want to see it, because I saw him in Looper and I was like, what is happening? Like, he is fucking terrifying in Looper.
If you like his performance in Looper, you will love Godless, because it's just all that. It's like all like Jeff Daniels like walks into the room and no one can take their eyes off of him, because he can just like fucking command a room with how intense he is, and he's fucking amazing in that show. So good.
Can I tell you one of my favorite things that Jeff Daniels ever did? Since I already derailed this earlier. On Colbert, I think I want to say, was it Helen Mirren? One of the dames, one of the actual dames, not the expression that I love, came out. And literally, you know how Colbert would go meet them halfway on the stage and like shake hands or whatever? Helen Mirren pulls Colbert in and just kisses him on the lips, like kind of long. And then the next guest after that was Jeff Daniels. And Jeff Daniels walks out. When they shake hands, he pulls Colbert and kisses him on the lips for a long time also. And Colbert rolls with it because he's an improv guy at heart. That's where he got his start, was improv on stage. But when they sat down at the desk, he had no words. He had no idea what to fucking say. And Jeff Daniels just sat there and stared at him calmly. It was awesome. Amazing. It's exactly the way Helen Mirren did. He walked out and just kissed him. It was great.
But there's one scene in this movie in particular where Pedro Pascal is like fucking wonderful. Yes. It's where they're first investigating him as the villain, and the scene is basically like Nic Cage looking at him across a party. And because of the music and because of his smile, like Pedro Pascal has like all the charisma of like a fucking scumbag. What is their like villainous operation. They're like trying to like
They're a cartel and arms dealer, I believe.
yeah, and they're also trying to like swing an election in Spain or something. There's like a
Yes.
very convoluted, very 90s Nick Cage plot happening. Not coincidentally, which you will find out.
This movie has a Nick Cage movie and like a CIA spy thriller, both happening at the same time, and they're almost different movies. Like,
Yeah.
it's what?
It's nuts.
But-
Like, this movie is nuts.
Pedro Pascal in this, not only does he have a lot of Jeff Daniels energy to him in this, there are times that he's just almost downright sinister in the beginning.
Yeah, but always being likable.
Always
Like,
likable, even when he's being
that-
sinister.
that scene when they're watching the movie together and he's just like Paddington 2 is incredible.
Oh my
I
god, dude.
fucking told you.
That is what there's two parts of this movie that I laughed out loud and I laughed hard. That was one of them.
It's so good. So we also have Tiffany Haddish, who
Okay.
I am sorry, what was that?
I was going to say, I cannot stand Tiffany Haddish. I actually kind of liked her in this movie.
What else has she been in? I'm not that familiar with Tiffany Haddish.
She's been very Tiffany Haddish in a lot of other things. Night
know-
School is the main thing she's from, I believe.
I feel like everything that's made her notable has been stuff that's been just like stuff I haven't caught, so I know nothing about her.
Yeah, the one thing that I remember being everywhere was Night School. I
have not seen that,
remember
so I know
posters
nothing.
for it. I remember the standees for it. When did Night School come out? I feel like I was still at the theater. I feel like it was just everywhere. And I was just like,
Let's
please don't make me
see.
scream
Night
it.
School came out in 2018.
Yeah, that's not when I was at the theater, but it was. I remember it was everywhere. You couldn't escape it. It was on TV.
I've heard of it.
It was online.
I've heard of it. I know nothing about Tiffany Haddish, but yeah, I thought she was fine in this. I thought she had a few. I thought her scene at the very beginning where she was just like yelling in the bar, like the concierge area, you know, like near Nic Cage, and she like oh I'm screaming, and then she like said it again like, more quietly. Like she had a couple lines that I thought she delivered pretty well.
Yeah, she did pretty okay in this because she was not being herself. Because most of the time, she's one of those actors that you hire them because you want them to be themselves,
Like
for the most
that
part.
Awkwafina type of person where they're just
like
always
Awkwafina, or maybe
Yeah.
even like a Nic Cage like character.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
get
went
that.
there. But yeah, her actually playing a role. I actually liked her in this.
Yeah, the scenes where they are on the intercom earbud thing giving Nic Cage instructions are really fucking funny.
There is a thing becoming a trope, and I don't care because it's never not funny to me. Someone being semi-paralyzed on the ground, having to wiggle like a snake across to get away from something. I don't know why that's showing up. It's like the third or fourth movie now I've seen it in recently. But
I can't feel my legs.
yeah, I just him falling asleep out on the ledge outside on the window. Like, wake up! And her yelling action, and he snaps awake.
Yeah, completely unfazed. Genius.
Oh my god, it's so good.
We also have Sharon Horgan, who plays Olivia, who is the so Nick Cage is playing Nick Cage, but this is a fictional version of Nick Cage, who Nick Cage has said is Nick Cage has said is nothing like the way he is in real life, and
I bet he said that.
none of these family member stand-ins are a stand-in to like one of his actual like children or wife.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
They're a fictional family. I feel like I've seen her in something else, but I looked through IMDb and I can't place where I know her from.
That's exactly what I did during the movie. I was
Yeah.
like, who the hell are you? And I looked her up, and I just kept scrolling, waiting to see something I recognize her from. But I guess she reminds me of someone else. I have no idea who.
It
I
might
like
be
her.
the accent. Yeah, I think she's good in this. It might be the accent. Like the accent reminds me of someone else because she has like I think it's an Irish accent, right? I'm
Something
sorry,
like
is it
that?
Scottish. I get those
I'm
types of
American,
accents.
so I'm bad with accents.
I'm so bad at those types of accents. I cannot place them. It's terrible. Yeah, I swear to God I've seen her in something, but I just can't place it. We have Paco Leon, who's playing Lucas Gutierrez, who is the cousin of Pedro Pascal's character.
So good.
Also really good in this. I had never seen this guy before, but I think he's really good.
Yeah, it's the first time I've ever seen him before. And that turn that the movie takes, because they set him up to be like Pedro Pascal is the main villain, and this is gonna be his idiot cousin.
His like second command type of guy.
Yeah. But like the way he's dressed and kind of unkempt all the time, and he's always acting kind of dopey. You think he's just gonna be like the John Cryer of Superman, right? You just think he's gonna be that kind of character.
Yeah, exactly.
He's absolutely not.
Okay. Question.
Yes.
When you first saw Neil Patrick Harris, did you think he was playing himself? Because I totally thought he was playing Neil Patrick Harris, and he was his buddies with Nic Cage.
It took me a minute to catch on that he's not, in fact, Neil Patrick Harris.
And what's funny is they go out of their way to assert that by having Nic Cage call him by his character name like 50 times.
Yeah.
Every single time he talks to him, he's like, Fink, what's going on, Fink. It's just like, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for confirming that he's not Neil Patrick Harris.
Thank you, Mr.
Because
Cage.
when you're watching this movie where Nic Cage is playing himself and you see these famous people,
I know.
Your first instinct
You
is
go into entourage mode, right?
Yeah, your first instinct is, oh, Pedro Pascal is just playing Pedro Pascal. Like, but you realize, like, I think the only person
I would watch that, by the way. I would watch that movie. Pedro Pascal being Pedro Pascal with Nic Cage as Nic Cage.
Yeah.
I would totally watch that.
What's funny is the only other person who ends up playing their actress self in real life is Demi Moore in the ending.
I was shocked to see her. I didn't think she acted anymore.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I think so. We also have Lily Mo Sheen, who plays Addie Cage, who plays the daughter of Nic Cage, who he's trying to kind of like reconnect with because they have this like kind of ongoing subplot of Nic Cage always being kind of self-centered and so focused. It's interesting. They made the angle of like Nic Cage constantly being in 1,000 movies each year as like a kind of like realistic family complication where because he's so busy, he doesn't have time to like hang out with his daughter, and he always makes it about him. And it's just like, I thought that was kind of like well observed and well written.
Or he does, but he like fucks it up when he does. Can we pause for a moment on Lily Sheen here? Remember how we talked about Ewan McGregor and how it's not fair he gets to wake up every day and be Ewan McGregor?
Yes.
Lily Sheen is the daughter of Martin Sheen and Kate Beckinsale, and gets to hang out with Nicolas fucking Cage on a movie set.
I didn't realize that she was in those families.
Yeah, her dad's Martin Sheen, which I'm sure you know because the guy's a fucking legend.
Yeah.
And then Kate Beckinsale is her mom, and she got to hang out with Nicolas Cage on a movie set. None of that is fair.
Oh, Michael Sheen.
Michael Sheen,
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I do that all the fucking time. I want to call Martin Sheen Michael Sheen, and I want to call Michael Sheen Martin Sheen.
Yeah, I feel you.
There's no relation between the two. There's no reason I should ever do that. But
it's just the similarity in the
I cannot
kind of roll off the tongue.
And I can see the correct face in my head when I'm talking about them, but I cannot get their names right.
That's okay.
But yeah,
that's what IMDb is for, man.
But I know you know Mike Sheen. I know you know Michael Sheen.
You ever see Frost Nixon with him in it?
No, I heard that's a really good movie.
It's such a fucking amazing movie off of just two guys having conversations, but like it's like gripping somehow. It's really, really
the thing that hurts me, because he's also in Underworld, isn't he?
He's in the third one. He's in the prequel, the Rise of the Lycans one.
He's not in the first one too?
I don't think so. I think he was just in the prequel one.
The thing that hurts me is he's a legendary actor. He's great even when he's in a bit role. And one of the first thing that pops in my head when I think of him is goddamn Twilight, because he's in Twilight.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, why?
By the way, did you ever watch if you haven't, you absolutely have to. Did you ever watch Good Omens with him and David Tennant?
I have not.
Dude, it's a Neil Gaiman story.
with David Tennant and
Michael Sheen, and they're playing fucking angels and demons and shit. It's so good. Like, they're great.
I've heard it's fucking amazing.
You will love that show because like it's just them being David Tennant and Michael Sheen, and it's a Neil Gaiman fucking like urban fantasy setting. So it's just
every time you hear Neil Gaiman, I hear
Cheesecake Factory.
No, oh my god, I am running on no sleep and a lot of caffeine, and I just blanked on Luke Skywalker's name. Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill going, Neil Gaiman-esque world of music and whimsy.
And if David Tennant and Michael Sheen weren't enough to sell it, the actor playing Gabriel is none other than John fucking Hamm, who's in that show.
Did you ever see the awful movie Passengers?
Passengers. Was that the one with
J-Law,
Hunger Games girl and Star-Lord?
Yes, exactly.
I saw the trailers for it. I never saw it though.
Yeah, you made the right decision. Michael Sheen is the best part of that movie.
Didn't even know he was in it.
He is a bartender who is a robot. From the waist down, he's just a stick on a wheel, and from the waist up, he's Michael Sheen, and he's serving Star-Lord at the bar.
I also just discovered season 2 of Good Omens comes out later this month, and I'm excited because I'm gonna binge the shit out of that show.
No, he's in Underworld, Underworld 2, and Underworld 3.
Michael Sheen is?
Yeah, he's the main werewolf. He's Lucian.
I saw the first 2, but I never saw the third one. I was not aware he was in there. I thought he was just in the. Is he like more of a focus in the third one or something?
I think he's in the beginning of the movie. Well, no, because that's the one that goes back in time. Yeah, I guess he's the star of it too. The movie opens with like Beckinsale, but it goes back.
Maybe it's because he's like the main character in that one.
He's a main character in the first one. He's the one she's trying to kill.
In the first movie?
Yeah. He's the main werewolf. He's the one masterminding everything. And the third movie is about why he is the way he is.
I get his character and Scott Speedman's
Speedman.
I get their characters mixed up. Yeah.
That's another one that's not fucking fair. Anyway. Yeah, no, Michael Sheen's the main werewolf.
Gotcha. Yeah, I haven't seen those movies in like 20 years, so forgive me.
That's your fault. I love those movies, and you're lucky I haven't had them on this show yet. All 5 of them.
I mean, I'm not against it. Like, I don't hate them. I just haven't seen. I actually, what's weird, I never do this. I was going to see I think we went and saw something else, but I ended up seeing the 4th movie before I have seen the 3rd movie, and that's like the only time I've ever watched something out of order like that, because usually it hurts my brain.
Well, the 3rd movie is the prequel.
Yeah, it could be. I think maybe it was because like the 3rd one was a prequel. I could kind of like talk myself into it, but usually I have to watch the movie series in like chronological order, or it hurts my brain.
I want to say
I have seen the 4th one. I just have not seen the 3rd one.
I want to say the 4th one is the one that there's a time jump. Like you're not supposed to know what's going on when the movie starts.
Something like that, because they have Kate Beckinsale back as the lead.
Yeah.
And then I don't. Man, it's been so long. Shit. When did the fucking 4th one come out? Like 10 years ago? Like it's been a minute.
Well, the 5th one came out sometime. I don't think he was in that, but I think Lily is. I think Lily Sheen is.
Yeah, I have no idea. But yeah, let's get back on topic. We have like 17 different segues
Jeff,
to Underworld somehow.
We're talking about Underworld. We are on topic. All right, this is Underworld we're talking about.
Yeah, now I've just been scrolling through so many fucking IMDb pages trying to do all this like on the fly research and fact checking and shit.
Well, the next name I can't pronounce, so I'm gonna leave that to you.
Oh, good. Thanks for that. Let's see. Is it Alessandra Mastronardi? Is that who we're talking about?
Bless you.
I think I just performed like a Harry Potter spell or some shit. I don't know what's going on. Who is playing Gabriella? This is the girl that gets kidnapped? Is that? Or no, Gabriella is the girl that Pedro Pascal likes, right?
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I think was there anyone else in like the cast that you wanted to point? I think we got like our major people kind of.
I mean, I think Jacob, what is it? Scipio is probably one to mention. He's Carlos.
And that's the henchman guy.
He's the henchman, but he's also a double agent. So
yeah,
because you think he's on Javi's side, but it turns out he's on Lucas's side.
And the most important character is Nicky Cage. We gotta
Okay,
dude.
can we
dude,
talk
let's
about Nicky
that.
Cage?
We gotta talk about Nicky Cage. So were you
What
just
the
kind of
fuck?
like, what the fuck is happening when he's in the car with him? It's like, I get the idea behind it, but just the fact that like so this movie is just bonkers and weird the entire time, and when they managed to like kick it into like fucking high gear with that, I was just like, are we reaching like Mandy levels of weird with this? But he's only in the movie for what, like 2 scenes?
See, here's the thing. Nicky Cage gave nothing to this movie. In fact, it probably subtracted from this movie. And I think they know that because I feel like they edited out a lot of Nicky Cage because he's only in the beginning and then basically near the end, and then he's just gone. He's nowhere.
Yeah.
He's nowhere in the middle. And I feel like they took a lot of Nicky Cage out.
I didn't feel like it negatively impacted the movie mostly because of just how little he was in it, but it was definitely not additive. And I get so the thinking behind him is that Nic Cage is struggling with his like former movie star self, like metaphorically, where he has turned out to be this kind of like working man's actor where he just basically says yes to everything, is in 20 movies a year. Doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter who's directing it. He just likes to work. He just is constantly working.
And that's how we got Willy's Wonderland.
And that's how you stuff like that. And
you and I should make a movie and ask Nic Cage.
What's funny is, I don't know if you looked at the production notes, he turned this movie down like 4 times before he eventually said yes.
Who do you replace the role of Nic Cage with?
It's so funny. I don't even understand how you would be ballsy enough to write this movie without having
him on board.
In advance having Nic Cage on board, because it literally doesn't function with any other actor. The only actor that could make this work is Nic Cage. No other actor has had the type of career that he's had.
Dude, is your fallback John Travolta? Him trying to get back into movies?
It doesn't work because he like the whole kind of like point of it is that Nic Cage went from being a movie star to a actor who is in a metric shit ton of movies regardless of quality. You know, he was A-list for about 15 years.
Oh yeah.
And then just like had a completely, like strange change of pace to his career. And it wasn't part of that we talked about before, like, didn't he have like a lot of like financial issues to where he kind of like had to say yes to everything for a while?
He
kind of like
he had to
start paying off debts.
He had to sell a couple of his castles. I know that.
I think he had to sell.
I think he had to sell Superman #1, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he had to sell his copy of Action Comics #1. Like, I think wasn't it stolen and then it found and then he had to sell it, which would be pretty devastating to actually get that back and then have to sell it.
Right.
But yeah, man, just so crazy that like the way Nic Cage's career turned out ended up being the plot of a fucking movie. Like, just the fact that we're having this conversation is bonkers.
Wouldn't the irony though? Wouldn't it be just ironic if they ended up having to make this movie with John Travolta?
I'd watch it.
I would watch it too, but this the irony after Face Off.
Would be pretty funny. They should have had him as a cameo in this,
right? A movie made for Nic Cage starring John Travolta would be hilarious.
Yeah, he should have been a cameo in this. So just to finish that topic, how I was talking about how he turned it down, multiple times.
Yeah.
So this is the production notes on Wikipedia. So as I mentioned earlier, he plays a fictionalized version of himself, who Nic Cage himself has said bears little resemblance to his actual real life personality.
Sure.
He originally turned down the role 3 or 4 times, but changed his mind after the writer-director Tom Gormican. By the way, Gormican sounds like something that would be in the fucking Underworld movies as like the final thing they have to kill. He changed his mind after writer-director Tom Gormican wrote him a personal letter. I would like to read that letter.
I would
hey,
too.
Man, so I spent 6 months writing the script about Nic Cage, and if Nic Cage is a Nic Cage, I can't make my movie. So please, like, what do you say? So
he probably offered him $1 million to attend his birthday and look at his screenplay.
I will buy you a new copy of Action Comics #1, so you can get your Superman comic pack. On November 15th, in 2019, Lionsgate acquired the production rights, and then it looks like what kind of got like the ball rolling on this is in August of 2020, Pedro Pascal joined the film, and then I think it kind of like snowballed from there, and that should be like a pretty,
I can't.
$30 million budget for a movie where Nic Cage is playing Nic Cage. It's not bad.
I can't stop laughing at the idea that the one movie Nic Cage has turned down is the one where he plays himself.
I mean, it makes sense though, because like you read the script and like the whole first act is showing Nic Cage and the like negative aspects of how his career has gone.
Yeah,
so, like that's kind of personal,
and
for him. For first of all, I am actually kind of with Nic Cage turning it down several times because, like I said, I don't think he should have written this movie without him being on board.
Yeah,
that's just kind of like my opinion because it is very personal. I'm glad he originally, or I'm glad he eventually, I should say, accepted it because I like this movie. But I have, like a lot of understanding to like that mindset of like, you just wrote a movie about me where I'm playing myself and I didn't agree to it, so fuck you, dude. Like, I can see that being my reaction too.
I want to read the letter that he wrote Nic Cage, but I also want to hear what notes Nic Cage had for him upon reading the screenplay.
Yeah,
I want to know how far it went before Nic Cage got on board, like what they had to change.
I want to like hunt around on YouTube to see if there's like a discussion like where they sat down with this writer director and Nic Cage just to talk about like the background of this movie, because the fact this movie exists is pretty fascinating
and bonkers.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, let's talk more about the plot. Okay, so like it opens up where Nic Cage is basically kind of at that point again, how he was in real life, where he's kind of like in the hole financially. Don't they say he's been like living at like a hotel for a year and owes them like $600,000? He's like, yeah, they love me. It's like, dude, you owe them $600,000 because Neil Patrick Harris is playing his agent, I believe.
Yes.
And then the kind of like the real like plot point to the movie is him having to go to, oh god, what's the name of this island in Spain?
Oh,
like,
I don't know.
Yeah, he goes to some fucking super fancy island in Spain where like you literally have to be a billionaire to have a house here because it looks like a screensaver, at all, like everywhere you go. And Pedro Pascal's character, Javi, has offered him $1 million to be the guest of honor at his birthday party because he's just the biggest Nic Cage super fan in the world. Even having a man cave dedicated to memorabilia of Nic Cage.
I love that statement. I already knew what it was going to be when they were setting it up, because this is the way he was talking, like it's going to change the way you think of me forever. They want you to think it's the girl being held captive. But I was just like, oh my god, he has a Nicolas Cage room. And when they open it up, oh my god, it's glorious. It was so much better than I even expected it to be. But the pillow is like, well, that's creepy. No, it's not. It's not creepy.
I love to. There's so many deep cuts to like older Nic Cage stuff in here too that I really like. There are even the diapers from Raising Arizona in the background. Have you seen Raising Arizona, by the way? Because that movie is fucking amazing. It's so good. It's I believe it's Coen Brothers. Let me just fact check that. But I love Raising Arizona. It's so fucking funny.
The mannequin. That is one of the most Nicolas Cage things I've ever seen.
I love where he asks him, where he's like, "How much did you pay for this?" I think it was $6,000.
How much did you pay for this grotesque thing?
I will give you $20,000 for this.
I laughed so hard at that. I will give you $20,000 right now.
So, okay, Ron, Raising Arizona. It's late '80s Coen Brothers with Nic Cage and John Goodman.
Oh my god!
You got to see it. It's so fucking funny. It's so fucking funny. It's one of those. I think that might have been like the very first Coen Brothers movie I actually watched, because my dad is a giant Raising Arizona fan.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say John Goodman and Jeff Daniels both super underrated, even though everyone kind of loves them. Still underrated.
Agreed.
I think.
Agreed. Yeah, people don't really like fully appreciate the range they have. I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I fucking love John Goodman. He's so good. Yeah. He's such a scumbag in Kong Skull Island.
Oh yeah.
And then such a lovable father in Speed Racer. More like a nanja.
More like a nanja. Man. Yeah. So the fucking plot of this movie. So the CIA thinks that Pedro Pascal is this like criminal mastermind, like ringleader of a cartel.
And to be fair, they have evidence for it because that is his job, is to be the front man.
True. Yeah, and they end up saying they have like 5 years of evidence of, like basically tracing it back to
his role in the cartel is to be the fall guy.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And
so
the CIA fucking sees Nic Cage. I love where the other guy, the CIA agent who isn't Tiffany Haddish, is. You're not gonna fucking believe this. I think that's Nic Cage.
Oh, to be that guy, right?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is he doing on a plane owned by Javi Gutierrez? Yeah.
It is one of those like I feel like that's the reaction everyone has when they see a famous person in like a random location. Like, you would double take and double take and just over and over and over again, be like, there's no shot that's actually that person, right? Like, why would they be here? I feel like that has to happen like all the time.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I think like 45 minutes thereabouts is too long to get to that part though. Like, I think the beginning of this movie is too slow. I think they spend way too much time on Nicolas Cage's family problems. Like, there's a point where I was kind of like, all right, I get it. And then Nikki shows up. I'm like, the fuck is happening? And then we get to Pedro Pascal.
Not only him, but the dynamic between him and Nic Cage is great.
So good.
Dude, the fucking extent to which Pedro Pascal is just like nervous to be around him is so good.
He acts such a dork.
Well. He's such a dork, and he sells it so well of being like that type of super fan where it's like they love the celebrity so much they can't even talk to them because they're just a god to them, and he really sells it.
The conversation he has poolside is amazing.
Yeah,
and he shows up, they're both just sitting there quietly, and you just, huh? What? I thought you said something. No one had said anything.
Also, when he first shows up and he keeps asking Pedro Pascal about Javi, and eventually he's like, "I'm Javi."
After he's like, "Look, I'm not gonna suck his dick. I'm not gonna fuck his wife. I'm not gonna fuck his wife with him watching. I'm Javi."
Yeah, because like Neil Patrick Harris, rightly so, thinks weird shit is afoot when he offers to pay him $1 million to be the guest of honor at his birthday party in fucking Spain. Like, what? He's like, I'm Javi.
It's so good.
Also, when he's so nervous to get him to like read his script is fucking adorable. Like, Pedro Pascal is a fucking adorable dork in this movie.
Keep in mind, at this point, you think he's some badass cartel guy. Also,
he kind of like dances that tightrope a bit of like simultaneously being a little bit intimidating at times while also like having moments of where he's just a giant fucking nerd.
But I love
it.
To finish out that scene too, and they're sitting there and they're both dead silent. And he's just, huh? Oh, I thought you said something. Like a few more seconds of silence goes by, and he goes, along those lines, and he sits up and starts talking to him about his screenplay.
Yeah.
And then Nic Cage just walks off into the pool. And he's drinking his beer on the bottom of the pool.
And he thinks he's gonna fucking commit suicide down there because he jumps in to rescue him and immediately brings him to the surface. It's fucking amazing.
It's so good.
But then what then happens though is he starts hanging out with Javi, and like the first thing that he has like a bond with him is the captain of Dr. Caligari, which is a really trippy, aesthetically like fucking amazing movie like literally 100 years ago, which if people aren't familiar with, like, go look up on IMDb and look at the screenshots because it's an amazing movie, like aesthetically, just like the way that the shadows are done and everything, and the set art is really cool. But they nerd out over that because Nic Cage had tried to get his daughter to watch it, basically kind of like trying to like shoehorn her into liking the movie because he likes it.
Right.
And he finds out that Javi loves it, and they bond over that. And then like they end up watching Paddington 2 together. And it's just like, it's such a beautiful little bromance they have in this movie where you're just like so invested, and like Nic Cage, you start to like really, really want Javi to be a good guy, to not be this criminal mastermind because he's just so likable.
I just love it. He's like, how did we get from there to Paddington 2? And he's like, I cried. And he's like, explain this to me. He goes, like a baby. And then it just hard cuts to them watching it.
It's wonderful.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, and so the CIA like recruits him basically to be like an undercover spy.
Him, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. They fucking basically like black bag him, throw him in the back of a fucking passenger van, and then drive off with him. And they recruit him because he's like their only way of getting any inside information that isn't suspicious. Because Nic Cage is there as a guest of honor, let's just send Nic Cage in to do the spy shit.
Right.
And dude, how funny is the scene when he has, like we talked about earlier, but the paralyzing agent is fucking hysterical.
I think I touched my forehead. You think you touched your forehead, or you did touch your forehead? I definitely touched my forehead.
I love that scene so much. And when she just casually sends him onto the balcony to like fucking Neo across the skyscraper in the first Matrix movie, like what the fuck? And he's out there like Nic Cage is so funny too. He's like, I can't feel my legs, and he's doing like where he's like talking like he can't feel his tongue.
Yeah,
like his speech is all slurred and fucked up. And
then she yells action to snap him out of it. It's so good.
After he's passed out, it's fucking great. I love the whole like. The whole like middle of this movie is fucking genius. It gets so good for like a solid like 45-minute stretch that kind of like I didn't hate the first act, but like I agree it's a little bit slower pace. And
I think you cut the first act in half and get to this stuff sooner.
Yeah, I think you cut the Nikki scenes.
Oh my god.
As much as I don't hate them as much as you do, but I do think that the real strong suit of the movie is the dynamic between Pedro Pascal and Nic Cage. So you need to get to that as soon as possible. But the reason they do that extra stuff with like him and his family is to add more like kind of pathos to the ending of it, which I get. But what we're here to see is these two guys. Like their bromance is the backbone of the movie, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. What about when Nic Cage is in the mirror talking to Tiffany Haddish about how he thinks he has a knack for this and maybe he should just become a super spy? It's like, we're gonna need you to do it again. The fuck I am.
Fuck no, man. I'm getting on a plane. I'm going back to Los Angeles.
It was so good.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, him with the CIA stuff is fantastic.
The CIA stuff is great. Maybe my favorite sequence of the entire movie is when Javi and Nic Cage are on LSD.
Oh, dude.
Dude, that whole fucking scene when they're driving together is amazing.
Dude, okay. So I told you there was two parts that I laughed out loud and I laughed hard. The other one was because I couldn't stop thinking, if you and I, Jeff, were to do acid, one of us would be on the wall and one of us would be trying to get up the wall. One of us is Nic Cage and one of us is Pedro Pascal in that scene.
I also love the moments where they have like meta direction, where like the movie kind of like for a split second like is transposed to be like this kind of like epic like Ridley Scott Black Hawk Down silent war movie, you know, like they have like the intercut like meta direction where it becomes a totally different like legitimate movie instead of like the action comedy that it is. And when they're like talking like it's like, I will leave you behind, man. You got to get back to what is the girl's name that he likes? You got to get back and tell her yourself. Yeah, you got to get back to Gabriella and tell her you're gonna tell her yourself, man. They have like all the cliche like army bro dialogue.
When he drops Pedro Pascal and he drops like a foot and a half, it goes into slow motion.
It goes into slow mo like he just dropped him off the side of a cliff.
And Nicolas Cage is just on top of the wall, just like beating the wall.
Also, like Nic Cage, when he is like switching between being Nic Cage, who is movie star Nic Cage and like actively is the like persona of like movie star Nic Cage, and then switching into meta Nic Cage, who is playing the way Nic Cage would have been like overacting in a 90s movie. Yeah, like Nic Cage is asked to do a lot of stuff that is like very subtle, and he's great at like
further supporting instantly. Kevin Smith's theory that he's the greatest actor that's ever lived.
I mean, like when you watch this, like he's so good at like just like switching on a dime between these different personas while the entire time playing Nic Cage, but isn't himself. like it's an interesting performance. Like I think originally what probably was in that letter to like sell him on it is he was just like, now on the surface this just looks like a parody, like this just looks like meta satire that's going to be like a dumpster fire. But when you really think about it, like we're asking you to do a lot that is subtle, and you won't be able to like actually understand that as like the audience until you sit down and watch the fucking movie to see like how many layers there are to it. So this movie is silly and bonkers and goofy, but there's like some like legit like writing and performance to it when you really think about it. Like just what all is on the table.
Yeah. No, it's this movie. I feel like you could write a thesis on this movie, to be honest.
Right? Yeah, it's funny and it's really entertaining once you get to the Pedro Pascal stuff with him, with them two together. But like, man, just like when you analyze it and look back on it, like it's legit like interesting to think about and interesting to talk about. And there's a lot to like really dive in and like analyze as far as like the moments where Nic Cage is playing himself, but not really playing himself. And now he's like when they have like the movie scenes at the end, you know, when he is macho early 90s The Rock Nic Cage, you know.
Yeah.
And I think it's really fun that he got to like have this like self-critique of his own career in a movie where he's playing himself but not really. And it's just like, what?
Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about, where we point out how this movie gets even more meta, is the movie that they are talking about wanting to write themselves throughout the whole thing is this movie.
Yeah.
Like, they even bring in the kidnapping. They talk about how the kidnapping would be detrimental to the plot and stuff. And then, you know what? I was thinking maybe the kidnapping could work. And they're just going on and on and on. And everything they're talking about with the two characters getting to know each other, they even say we could like make it about us and our relationship, and that's exactly what this movie is.
Yeah, they mention that at the point of the movie where that is becoming the like driving force of like the plot, you know.
Yeah.
It's like happening in real time. Yeah, it's nuts. I would be very, very curious to see like how many drafts were put into this.
I feel like this is a movie that gets written on set. I feel like it gets rewritten so many times at that point that they're just kind of doing the rewrites as they go.
Yeah, I could totally see that, because just so much of the movie is so nuts that... also... How fucking funny is it when they send a Nic Cage with the prosthetics to be like the fucking like Italian like mafia guy?
And is the dude actually falls for it after talking to Nic Cage's wife?
Yeah, because she is just like stone cold out of nowhere.
Yeah, like even he's looking at it like, the fuck?
What the fuck?
When she calls him out, like, if you're gonna kill him, you would have already done it.
Yeah. That whole segment, it's like, what did you think of like when towards the end where they like hard cut to like where you are now watching the movie that they made?
Oh my god, I laughed so hard because you see it, but that's not a mistake. They want you to see it because it's right when he grabs the knife is the cut. When she throws the knife to him and it cuts to him grabbing it out of the air, and he starts trying to stab the guy and just, ah! And I was like, okay, this is the movie. Because there's no way they'd make Nicolas Cage that awesome, which I kind of want to know how that actually turned out. But then,
yeah, you don't actually see the like ending, so it's really cool. You only see the really
fictional
ballsy.
Ending.
You never see what actually happened.
Yeah.
You don't know like how much of it was bullshit, because it was just them writing it as they went along. It's kind of fascinating. And I really like that choice because you don't see that very often. And usually when that happens, you're kind of like pissed off as a viewer because you kind of feel like you were cheated out of like seeing what actually happened. But it works. Because the whole point is them writing a movie together. Yeah. It totally fucking works. And like,
it fits, you don't know yet. Fucking fits.
You don't know yet if Javi had lived or not, because he gets shot by his cousin as they're going after Nic Cage when he has his kind of like final stand with Gabriella on the road as they're shooting at him. And you don't know if Javi made it or not. And then like it's so cool to see like Javi is there at the premiere but still unable to go in because he's too nervous. And I love that, where that guy, like even after all the shit they've been through together, and even though they got their fucking movie made, he's such a dork and he's so like lovable, and he's just so like sheepish. He can't even be in there when they're doing the premiere. He has to be outside and go in and ask how it went.
Yeah, I was thinking that's based on something. Was that actually Steven Spielberg?
I do not know.
I want to say it's Steven Spielberg with Jaws, but I'm not sure. I want to say
he couldn't be in there.
That he was so nervous he could not be in there, and when he heard people like reacting to what was happening, he thought they absolutely hated it. He was so he was so worried when the movie was over, and they're like, "No, dude, they're fucking eating it up." Like,
oh, or wait, it might have been Ridley Scott with Alien.
I don't remember. It's one of those. It's one of those two.
I want to say we talked about it a little bit, where it was like where Ridley Scott wasn't sure if the movie was going to be a hit until he realized people were throwing up in the premiere, and he was like, "Yeah, we have a hit now."
Yeah,
they might have both actually had something similar happen. But yeah, I do love that about Javi. Fucking Javi, dude. Javi is like the ultimate bro, and I want to hang out with Javi.
I was just saying, I want to hang out with Javi.
Because like I love it too. Like Nic Cage is like, this is the most fun I've had in years. He's just like, this is his like best friend. He just happens to be a super fan, but they just gel, and I think that's really cool.
Why do I get the feeling that Javi is a lot like Pedro Pascal in real life? Just a big dork.
Just a big dork.
Just a big dork in the best way.
I also love the fact that in the car right after they take LSD, you know, where like Nic Cage is looking like confused and looks over, and Pedro Pascal is just smiling. That like took off as a TikTok meme. And if you have not, Ron, if you have not seen those memes, you have to look them up. Some of them are so fucking funny, dude. I had seen that as a meme before watching this movie, and oh my god, dude, it's so good. It's so fucking good.
Oh, that's so great. Yeah, I love the no. I can't drive on acid. You're a better driver than me. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. I read that you did all your own stunts and gone in 60 seconds.
Yeah, and what's also kind of interesting is like, if you have been in as many movies as Nic Cage has been in, doing random shit,
you would have so much random training.
You actually would have random training in some of these situations, you know? So that's kind of cool. It's kind of cool how like they make a point of that.
That's one thing late in the run that Adam Savage talks about on Mythbusters is how weirdly prepared they are for certain situations, because there's so many gun myths or car myths or whatever that they literally had to go out and get trained how to do a thing. Mm-hmm. And then it's just like late in the season, they're like doing stuff and they're like, yeah, we are oddly well equipped to do this now because we did all these other myths where we had to like seek out training on how to drive certain ways or drive in certain weather or do things with guns. Yeah. Yeah, he talks about that. So when they said that, I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And it's just interesting to think about, like, if you actually did some of those, like, you know, like training segments for like Gone in 60 Seconds, that could make you a better driver, you know, like those random little skills they pick up throughout the years, you know, being an actor. You just have to learn like so many random little things, and over time those things kind of like, you know, build up, and you actually have some random useful skills that, you know, can actually help you out in real life. It's just like funny to think about. Yeah, I think I've kind of touched on everything that I had to talk about. Just go watch it. It's so charming.
If someone out there hearing this has watched this movie more than once, I'd be curious to hear how it holds up a second time, because I feel like it probably wouldn't be as good. I feel like going in cold, not knowing anything for the first time is the way to watch it.
I agree. I think
the Pedro Pascal and Nic Cage scenes would still be charming, but I don't think the movie would have the same effect.
Yeah, I agree. But I do think that their bromance and their like dynamic is so good.
I want to see them in another movie together.
Yeah, 1000%.
Because they had a chemistry on screen. You could buy them being friends.
I think their scenes together are so good that you would still enjoy the movie on rewatch. It just wouldn't have the same kind of like impact that it does. To where the first time you're watching it, you are kind of invested in finding out the kind of like mystery behind it, but behind like just how meta is this going to get. Maybe that's another reason they have the like Nikki stuff, is to like be a misdirect to where you don't know exactly how weird and how meta it's going to be, so it kind of puts you on edge.
Yeah, it just makes it seem like he has like, what is it, dissociative personality disorder or whatever.
Yeah, a bit. Yeah, they take it a little bit too far. I think the scenes with Nikki would work better if they were more like Fight Club flashes.
Yeah,
like where he has quick little, very very brief scenes with him, or where he sees him. And sees like what he personifies in the kind of like movie star side of Nic Cage that is kind of like no longer the way he is as an actor. But their conversations together last too long. I think you could do something with it. I just don't think it was executed very well in the movie.
Yeah, I can say. Like I said, I feel like there's probably more Nikki laying on the cutting room floor than there was in the movie.
I agree.
As I feel like they probably decided it didn't work, because it's weird to me how he pops in. And I think he pops in, like a total of 3 times or whatever. And you go, after the first time he pops in, you go a long time before you see him again. And I feel like that's a weird choice. It's like you go long enough that you almost forget that even happened before he shows up again. And it's jarring every time.
It's almost like if you were going to cut that much of him out of the movie, you should have just, pulled the trigger and gotten rid of all of it.
Pull the trigger on the golden guns?
Yeah.
Dude, man. When he pulls out the golden guns, it's like, yes, I knew that was coming the moment they show them and point out that they're real guns made just for the movie.
Also, what's so cool... Okay, I'm sure we've talked about it. But this movie has like one of the most like ingenious uses of the whole like Chekhov's gun thing. Are you familiar with like the Chekhov's gun thing? The writing.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I don't exactly know what it is.
Oh, okay. So Chekhov's gun is a like super old. I don't even know like what you'd call it, but almost like a writing mandate. So if you take the time to show a specific gun, for instance, that's usually the example is Chekhov's gun. If you show a gun in the first act, if you go out of your way to show a gun in the first act, it has to be shot in the third act.
Like the knife.
And that is just kind of like a rule of movies to where you don't have like basically like misled your audience, and it isn't random. It doesn't like basically creating like non-Deus Ex Machinas within the movie. This movie has one of the most like ingenious uses of that with the knife they have in the back of the truck.
Yeah.
So the knife is a Chekhov's gun.
It's a Chekhov's knife
within their fictional movie, because the Chekhov's gun payoff is them throwing the knife in the fake movie at the very end that they've been writing the whole time. It's fucking genius, like when you break it out like that. The other incredible misdirect with Chekhov's gun is a literal gun in The Nice Guys. Nick, oh god, what is Russell Crowe's character's name?
I don't remember.
He has he has in the Bee Dream with Ryan Gosling, he sees the gun in his ankle holster,
right?
And he reaches for the gun in the third act. He's like, that was a fucking dream, dude. He doesn't have that. I love shit like that, where it's like a fucking like it's like a fucking meta joke for writers. Like that is like reaching out to my own fucking heart, dude. That's like laser targeted at me, and it's like, yes, I love you. Which Javi also is. He's like a sheepish writer to where he can't even be near Nic Cage as he's reading his script because he's just so nervous and he's such a fan. And like writers are typically like that just in general, where like so did you get a chance to read it yet? Did you get a chance to read it yet? Can you like give me notes? It's like they want to be, even if the news is bad, they have to know. They can't wait.
We'll go get lunch, sit down, we'll eat. You can watch me read your script.
Yeah. I really like this movie. I'm so glad, like we talked about earlier, that I knew next to nothing about it.
Yes.
Because that is the best way to go about it. The performances are great. Pedro Pascal like legit steals the movie for me. I love his character. I want to hang out with this character and Pedro Pascal both in real life because they just seem like awesome dudes. And yeah, I think it's really fucking good. And for a guy's second movie, this is pretty bold and out there, and I respect that. Because usually when you're making your second movie, you're trying to kind of like establish a name for yourself, and typically that requires kind of like playing it safe. And writing a fucking Nic Cage movie about Nic Cage playing himself before you've even gotten the sign off from him is pretty ballsy. I can commend that. But that's pretty much all I have. Is there anything else that we've missed that you'd like to talk about before we sign off?
No, I think we've pretty much covered everything that I had.
Yeah. Really good. Really good. I actually ended up liking this more than I thought I would, because sometimes meta stuff can be a little bit hit or miss for me. Like sometimes it like really hits the mark, like Scott Pilgrim is meta in certain ways that I adore that movie. But other times it can kind of like it's such a specific thing, and it's so easy to fuck up.
Yeah.
That when people can kind of like pull it off, it is.
That's why it took me so long to
commendable.
watch it. Is exactly what you're talking about right now.
Yeah, which I can't blame you, because it's a weird concept for a movie. But when they can make it work, it can sometimes lead to really great stuff like Scott Pilgrim in this. I will turn it over to Ron here in a second to announce the next movie we'll be covering. But if you'd like to follow the show more, we are on Twitter for as long as the lights remain on at Twitter.
They're slowly going out one room at a time.
They really are. I also can sign up for a Threads page that everyone is making right now, but I also just don't care, so I haven't done that yet either. I know that is an ongoing saga of if Jeff will ever make another Twitter style account on a different platform, or will he remain as lazy as he is. Find out next time, I guess, to see if I made a Threads account.
Tune in next week.
Find out next time on Dragon Ball Z.
That narrator I miss. Where the fuck is that narrator now?
Right?
Have you ever heard that guy's voice anywhere else on anything else?
I think. Is it? Isn't he actually like one of those voice actors? Yeah, where he's done like a bajillion things, and sounds nothing like that specific like fucking Sunday, like almost like wrestling announcer style thing they have going with that, though it just is beautiful and I love it.
Yeah, I'm gonna look this up while you're doing the sign off.
Yeah, we are on Twitter at SPR Filmcast, where you can follow us for show updates. Any ratings or reviews on any of the platforms you caught us on is always helpful. If you caught us on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. It always helps generate a little bit more traffic. We've been seeing a little bit more traffic on the YouTube page lately, which we really appreciate anyone catching us over there. And share us out to your friends. Were you able to find out anything about the DBZ announcer?
He is a legit voice actor in a ton of video games and cartoons, and he is a character in a couple of different X-Files episodes.
Oh, okay.
One episode, Dr. McLennan. But yeah, he's in like Need for Speed and a lot of like Mobile Suit Gundam games. One of the it just says Hulk 2003 robot voice. I'm assuming that's the movie, not the game.
You know what? Just to kind of like bring it full circle, it's kind of funny. The career Nic Cage has had is like the on-screen version of a voice actor.
Yeah.
Where like they fucking work. You look at like Gray DeLisle's IMDb page, or like any of the people who are in any of the main animes, like Matthew Mercer, like look up his fucking IMDb page and it is insane. Like those guys fucking work.
If
and
it's animated, I don't care what it is. If it is animated, Frank Welker's in there somewhere.
Absolutely. Yeah, those guys like that. Like those people are absolute legends, and I have so much respect for them when you just look at like the variety of characters they play, and you'd be like, that person was also that character and they were that character at the same time. It's wild. And I love voice actors and just like their commitment to being in as many projects as humanly fucking possible.
Voice actors blow my brain, because I found out that Sesshomaru and Inuyasha is Megatron and Beast Wars, and never will those two ever meet in the middle. Those two characters could not be more different.
Or when we found out that Elle from Death Note was one of the main characters and Barbie as the Princess and the Pauper, we're just like, what? That's fucking awesome. Ron, what are we covering next time?
I couldn't help myself, Jeff.
Oh God.
I couldn't do it. I just did not have enough Nic Cage.
Oh, you pulled the trigger?
I pulled the trigger on one of the Golden Guns. I watched this movie recently, and I even brought it up on the show, I think, talking about it for a moment. The only downfall to this movie is that it has Amber Heard in it, co-starring. but it's also got David Fincher in it and a few other recognizable faces.
Oh yeah,
I think we need to talk about Drive Angry.
I have seen Drive Angry and I liked it, so I'm down, dude. I'm down.
It is. I don't know which one came first, but either he had to do this movie because of Ghost Rider or he got Ghost Rider because of this movie. It's one of the two. But yeah, I don't think enough people have watched it, because if you want off the chain Nic Cage, this is your movie, my friend.
This is in that kind of repertoire of Nic Cage being Nic Cage.
Yes.
Like, and if you've seen it, you know what I mean.
Uh-huh. And David Fincher, his scenes steal the show for the scenes that he's in.
Yeah, I really like him as an actor. He was always really great in the... you ever watch the show Prison Break?
I have. I forgot he was in that. He's one of those character actors. I'm always so excited when he shows up.
That is it David, or I thought it was William? I thought it was William Fichtner.
Is it? I don't know. My brain is...
Yeah, it's William Fichtner.
My brain is fucked up. Who's David Fichtner? That's someone. I don't know
clue.
who. Great. Firefox won't turn back on because it's updating. But anyways, I feel like most people sadly know him from just the opening to Dark Knight these days, and he's in so many other things, and he's so
great
good.
in everything.
Yeah, he's great in
good.
that scene in The Dark Knight. That's why people remember him.
Yeah, he's fantastic. It's criminal how few people have seen like some of his more prominent roles, I'd say.
He has a lot of the best one-liners in this movie.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was in Independence Day Resurgence. I never saw that, but I did not realize he was in it.
Yep, he is. He's one of the few good things about that movie.
There you go.
I dread the day that you make me watch that movie for some reason, or someone does.
I mean, I would never do it, but now that you put it out there, someone's gonna pick it for Friends and Family Month. So you kind of set yourself up for that one.
It's got some good things. He's one of them.
He's the one saving grace.
Yeah, there's one of the most epic scenes from the first movie they just throw out the window, and it pisses me off.
Really?
Yes.
Back. Man,
and it weirdly gives Will Smith the finger, because he was already making like one or two other movies at the time, and he said he couldn't at the moment, but he's interested, so they kill him off screen.
Was it written by Chris Rock?
But yeah, their response was to kill him off screen, and he publicly was like, "I didn't say no. I said I can't right now because I'm contractually obligated, but I'm interested." And they just fucking killed him off screen, so he can't come back.
That's pretty fucked up, but also pretty
oddly
funny.
Respectable.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Because you know why they killed him off screen, right? Even if he had been in that movie for all of 5 minutes, he would have mandated like a $50 million fucking paycheck.
Probably.
So, like, I would have killed him off screen too, because Will Smith still thinks he's Will Smith. And Will Smith hasn't been that like status that he thinks he is since like 2002.
James Cameron doesn't do what James Cameron does because James Cameron. James Cameron does what James Cameron does because James Cameron.
Why do I feel like in a different like parallel reality, this level of like unbearable weight of massive talent meta-ness is about Will Smith playing Will Smith? And the movie is just like depressing as fuck. Like the whole second act is the slap from the Oscars, and it just takes a very, 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 very bleak turn.
You want to talk about a downfall? Like in the 90s, Will Smith was red hot, man. You could not, if he was in something, it put asses in seats, and that was at a time when that type of marketing was slowing down. People started shifting to like writers and directors. It wasn't about the actors hardly anymore by the time we got to late 90s and aughts. And
yeah,
then like he couldn't do no wrong, and then all of a sudden it's Will Smith. Really? Like, I've never seen anyone turn on an actor so fast as everybody did on Will Smith.
It's weird. Like, he just you know like the one like primary silver lining behind Will Smith kind of like fading away is his shit-stained fucking scumbag of a son now gets less work because of Will Smith kind of like fading away, and I can appreciate that silver lining because fuck his son, what a little fucking piece of shit.
My God,
hate that kid. You want to lose some brain cells? Go look at any fucking tweet in the last 15 years from that little shit stain.
No, thank you. I've had enough of him, and I've had enough of whipping my hair back and forth also. So
I'm fucking whip my hair back and forth against a brick wall before reading into that kid's tweets again, dude. Jesus Christ.
Just be the guy from Jessica Jones just plowing your head through the post.
Yeah. I would much rather do that. Yeah, I think it's gonna be a wrap. Yeah, I saw Drive Angry when it came out in theaters. I think we screened it.
I want to say Drive Angry like opened in theater 12, which is where movies go when they're leaving. I really want to say that's how that happened.
So it came out in 2011, so it's been 12 years.
Yeah, and that is the last year I worked at the movie theater. It is, I forgot to look it up before. It is available on Max, and it is available to rent at all the usual places.
Sweet. Yeah, we will be checking that out. Be sure to watch it so you can follow.
It costs about $1 or $2 more to buy at all of the usual places.
Nice.
So yeah, but it's on Max. Odds are these days you probably have Max because it's become a hell of a value. Either way, next thing I'm watching is that goddamn Doom That Came to Gotham because it's on there now.
Hell yeah, I really want to see that.
I almost feel like you should come over. It would just
I'm down.
Kick back and watch it because that's the one I feel like whether it's great or whether it's awful, we're probably gonna end up talking a lot about.
I wanted to watch that and Gotham by Gaslight.
They're both on there. We should just make a night of it.
Yeah, let's just like wombo combo double feature that shit. Let's do it. I'm down.
And then not talk about it on this podcast. Good night, everybody.
Sign up for our Patreon that doesn't exist to get the content that doesn't exist. The unbearable weight of massive podcasting talent.
If we did have a sideshow that was like subscription only, like Patreon only, I think that's it. Just going through like Batman movies, nothing but Batman movies, and just reviewing them, the same movies over and over again.
I feel like there is another parallel universe out there where we just cover nothing but Batman shit, and it's fat men on Batman.
And we're like super famous and doing live shows and shit.
Yeah,
doing it, and then here we are doing this.
The unbearable weight of mediocre talent.
Exactly. That's the name of our next podcast.
Let's do it. Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a good night.